Mercedes gave his W13 car up in Silverstone in February when England was beaten by a Storm Eunice, which made the wind gust more than 120 miles per hour, causing a number of travel networks to be closed. George Russell described the wind on that day as really crazy, but also had an impact from the meaning of Mercedes not getting a full picture of how bad the dolphin problems until the first test was right in Barcelona. Mercedes Tracside technical director Andrew Shovlin said that while the team had discussed potential problems with the return of the soil effect, it did not estimate the type of mechanism that really bother us. When we were in Silverstone, it was the middle of a storm. We were within a distance of 70 miles per hour, Shovlin told Autosport in an interview that looked back at the Mercedes season so far. You often start with a car that is high enough for searching and goods, just to avoid damaging it, and then drop it later. And during that day, we ran the car on a normal trip, and began to see the problem. But that was only when we arrived at Barcelona. You really could see it properly on a reasonable circuit, and began to understand what was happening. Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes W13 Photos by Mercedes AMG. Even when Mercedes brought an update to the car for the second test in Bahrain, the team continued to struggle with his car to bounce, something running until the season, and hampered its chances of competing with Red Bull and Ferrari in front of the package. Shovlin looked back at pre-season testing and pursuit for the answer as strange time for Mercedes, calling a barn perhaps the most complicated thing we have ever had to get our teeth. But progress is quite progressive and quite encouraging. Everything we do makes it more and more reasonable, Shovlin said. What we don't appreciate is that the problem is very similar to the onion layer. You peel that, you always see the same thing, no matter how many layers you release. And we realize that there are several mechanisms that play a role. The problem is that dealing with the challenge when competing is far more emotional, far more difficult, far more tense than dealing with it in the factory, when we can explore things in our own time. Earlier this year it was difficult, coming from becoming a team that will go to almost every race for the past few years think we can on pole A.